How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we are going to be talking about the best 5-star for beginners when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero. We're going to be looking at every 5-star character available on day one and talking about which ones are going to be the best for you when it comes to being a beginner in Zenless Zone Zero, because I have played through CBT2 and CBT3 and I've been able to play with the majority or basically all of these 5-stars, and I'm pretty sure I know the gist of what all these characters can do and how great they are for the early game, and also the best at teaching you the game, period. So before we get into all that, make sure you leave a like, comment, sub, all that different type of stuff, and let me know which characters you want when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero. And I cannot wait for the stream that's going to be releasing very soon. But going into the video, let's currently talk about all the 5-stars that are going to be available on day one. One of them is going to be Grace, which she is going to be Anomaly. Now Grace is a really good AoE unit with the ability to be able to give a lot of Anomaly buildup, which we talked about that stat in another video, so make sure to go check that out when you get the chance. But she is very great in the AoE aspect and also the reaction aspect of Zenless Zone Zero. The next one is going to be Rena, which I personally didn't get a chance to be able to play with her a lot, but she does have quite a bit of stats as being a support, and she's going to be giving pen ratio increase or penetration increase, which is going to be ignoring defense, which is a very strong stat to have, and then also electric damage boost and further if enemies are shocked. So that's a very important thing. But her as a support, we'll have to see if she's worth it for the early game. The next one is going to be Coleta. Coleta is very built on the daze aspect of the game, being able to build up those bars very quickly and also being part of the fire element. Now she has a really cool synergy that we will talk about later, which can play a big part in her value, I guess you could say. Going to the next one is going to be Nekomato, one of the fastest and one of the coolest characters in the game when it comes to being a physical DPS. And again, we will be talking about that in a moment when we talk about each character in depth. Next is going to be Soldier 11, which is going to be a fire DPS as well, which is a good thing. A lot of these early 5-star characters are DPS that allow us to have fun in the game before we start worrying about supports and sustains and all that type of stuff. That's really good to see. Next is going to be Lycan, which is a daze meter type of character similar to Coleta, and he's going to be for the ice team. And the next is going to be our limited 5-star for version 1.1, and it's going to be our first half, which is going to be Ellen, who has as well an ice DPS at the current moment. So we have a lot of really cool options at the current moment when it comes to all the 5-stars in Zenless Zone Zero on day one. But let's go ahead and start talking about the best 5-stars for beginners when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero. Now let's go ahead and state the obvious real quick. Of course, Ellen is by far one of the best characters, not only because of the absolutely a nasty amount of damage that she's able to give. She has really good AoE, she has very fast attack, she can give a lot of damage very early on, and not only that, she's able to use the freeze team, which is mono ice, which basically stuns every character in their tracks. You get to do free damage while they're trying to thaw out, and that is very strong for having your first team built up. The really cool thing is that Ellen, with along one of our rewards for a free character, is going to be Sokaku, which Sokaku is an ice support, which is absolutely insane. So you will only need Lycan if you were to get another 5-star from your starter pools, and that's going to be the full ice team, and you're just going to have one of the nastiest teams available in the first version of Zenless Zone Zero. Now of course, really quickly talking about the characters that you probably don't want as a beginner. Now I'm not saying these characters are bad, I just don't think they are worth it at the very start. Now if you do get these characters when you use your starter pools or you get your free 5-star, don't be discouraged. They're still really great characters. I just think you have to work a little bit more than a lot of the other characters at either teaching you aspects of the game or when it comes to the damage aspect or the value aspect of this game and how it works. Now the main character I want to say for this, which again, like I said, they sounded very insane from the quick summary I gave you at the beginning, but Rena 100% I know as a really good support, having defense ignore, having the shock increase for or the electric increase for damage is a really good thing, and something that is very valuable to a lot of different allies, especially when it comes to Grace and when it comes to something like Ambi as well, or even Anton. But when it comes to having a support character at the beginning of the game, not really the best thing in the world, especially when you are, I guess you say, thirsting for damage, which is a very important aspect of this game for sure. And you don't want to have a really good support character but have no one to use it on, especially in the early game where all our stats aren't min-max and all of our stats aren't very important to the buffs that they give. So Rena wouldn't be the absolutely best character to have at the very start. Going to the next one is going to be Coleta. Now Coleta, in my opinion, although she is very great for the daze meter and the slight AoE she does have, she can be a little tricky when it comes to maneuvering around with her and being able to actually hit the enemies with not only her ultimate, because her ultimate is a little bit wonky with her sliding past the enemies and then doing an ultimate backwards. And then not only that, she is very slow at the start, so it is going to be a little bit hard to be able to teach you and to be able to train your brain on making sure that you're parrying stuff, to make sure that you're dodging stuff when her moves are as slow as it is, and it feels a little clunky when she's in the air. I do want to give more chances when it comes to being able to play her on live release. Maybe they changed it, maybe they made her feel a little bit better. We're gonna have to wait and see, but she's still an overall really cool character, especially with how fast she builds the days meter, which is a very important mechanic in the game. Not only that, she also has a really cool synergy with Ben, which allows them to do a dual ultimate or also dual combos, which they both come out at the same time, which is a very cool thing, and I really like this a lot. And the next is going to be Lycan. You really only need Lycan if you have Ellen, because having Lycan by himself, although would be cool, because again, another days meter build-up character, it's only worth it if you have the full team. So you have Ellen, you have Sokaku, and then you have Lycan. That's basically the perfect ice team. Such a good character. I got to play him in every single closed beta, and he was an absolute monster. But of course, if you don't have Ellen, if you don't want to build the ice team, or you're not able to build the ice team early, then I think Lycan isn't the best choice in the world when it comes to being able to use him for a team or make him the primary or sole DPS. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I saying these characters are bad. Not in any way, shape, or form. I am saying that these characters aren't probably the best for beginners and for learning the game in the most part, just because the things that they offer, you can't really make a lot of use of at the very beginning of the game, which is gonna hinder your fun, hinder the amount of success you have when it comes to blitzing through the content. Now, if you really like these characters, or you really like their play styles, go ahead, by far, go ahead and use them 100%. If you really want them for the long investment type of run, that's cool too. I'm just letting you know this is for beginners, being able to learn the game the best and being able to do the most amount with what you get as having that 5-star. Now, of course, to talk about the characters that are good for beginners, let's go ahead and just say Ellen. Ellen's by far going to be the cheat code for the beginning of the game, of course, as most gacha games have it. Really good DPS, an amazing amount of damage, has the availability of having that freeze team, which is absolutely absurd as a team. It lets you basically blitz through everything in the game with freezing them, stunning them, and doing a nasty amount of damage as you do all of that together. Especially when it comes to having Sokaku and possibly even Lycan, you basically have either permanent daze, permanent stun, and doing an insane amount of damage all in one go. Really good stuff for Ellen, and she's by far a really good character to have, of course, as a beginner, being the first limited 5-star unit. Going into the next characters, one of them, in my opinion, that is really nice is going to be Nekomata. Nekomata is a very strong character, specifically because not only does she have a lot of days build up within her combos, but she also has a really nice amount of movement in her kit when it comes to being able to hold her heavy attack and dashing behind the enemies. Dashing behind the enemies means that they have to turn around to be able to hit them, and especially when it comes to the enemies already doing moves, if you go behind them, they're probably going to be swinging in the opposite direction, letting you do free damage, which is overall really good. Not only can you use this to allow Nekomata to be able to do her damage, but you could also instantly switch into another character to allow them to abuse the amount of time that enemy's going to take to finally turn around and hit you, which is a really strong thing to have. So not only do you have really good days build up with Nekomata, you have really good movement, and not only that, you also have a secondary teammate that's going to be free with pre-registration, which is going to be Corrin, which is a really nice thing to have, which is going to allow you to do a lot of extra damage, especially since I think Corrin, if I'm not wrong, reduces physical penetration or physical reduce on the amount of resistance that they have on that enemy, which is a really cool thing to have. The next character I think is going to be very important or really good for beginners is going to be Soldier 11. I think Soldier 11 is a perfect character to teach how the game works and the core fundamentals on how the game is going to be in the future, while also being a really fun DPS, because Soldier 11 is actually able to have a mechanic that wants you to time her normal attacks. And the reason for this is because when you spam it, you're just going to get regular normal attacks, which is what usually every character has. But for Soldier 11, in, I could just say specifically for just her ultimate and her skill allow you to be able to infuse your sword with fire damage. Now, when you don't have these up, you would assume that you would only be able to do physical damage while you're waiting for those cooldowns. That is wrong. You are able to actually have permanent fire infusion on your weapon if you time the normal attacks a certain way to be able to allow yourself to infuse fire onto your sword no matter what. This teaches you timing, this teaches you how to learn a new mechanic on the character and to not mindlessly left click on a character, which is going to be very important in the long run, I'm pretty sure, with the way they're going to be making these characters. So having Soldier 11, really fun DPS, allows for burn, and also teaches you how to time your attacks, which is going to be very, very strong for the early game. And having that permanent infusion can allow for some insane stuff in the future. I already can see it, and I really hope I get her this time around when it comes to pulling her as my first 5-star, because I never got to play her. But I know she's absolutely fun. I've had a lot of other friends play her, and man, she looks so much cooler than anything else. But then going into the last character that we're going to be talking about today, which is going to be the last 5-star that I think is really good for beginners. Getting Grace is going to be a very good early game carry, only because she has a lot of aspects to her. When it comes to her massive AoE from her skill, from her basics, she's able to deal with a lot of different enemies all at the same time. And not only that, she has a huge amount of anomaly buildup when it comes to using her grenade, when it comes to using her ultimate, which allow you to use a fat ton of reactions coupled with something like Nicole, who is part of the starting trio, or maybe any other character that you're currently playing with. Allows for an insane amount of reactions, allows for an insane amount of AoE, which makes mob clearing super quick, and allows for doing a lot of damage on the bigger enemies because they all count separate. Really nice stuff from Grace. And then not only that, since the beginning of the game is filled with a lot of robots, having that shock anomaly buildup is very strong on them, just because it allows them to take more damage, and not only that, allows them to also be stunned for a very long time when they're shocked, because yes, elements do play a big part in the enemies that you're going to be fighting, because when you burn a human, they are stunned for a long time. When you shock a robot, they are stunned for a long time. So it's really cool to see that we have these type of aspects of the game, and really nice to see that Grace is going to be absolutely tearing down a lot of those enemies that you're going to see in the beginning of the game when you hit the construction site arc, which is going to be very easy if you have Grace. So other than that, that's going to be it for the rest of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching all to the end. Let me know which 5-star you specifically want, whether it be the characters I didn't really recommend, which I still said are good 100%. I already said that they're really great. I just think the ones that I listed as good for beginners are really good for beginners. So other than that, thank you guys so much for that watching. See y'all guys in the next one, and peace.